The blind date my mother introduced to me was Jenny, a new female graduate student in her institute. Jenny comes from a poor family, but she is beautiful and ambitious. However, in order to get married into my family, Jenny's family schemed to alienate her from her boyfriend, which led to his accidental death. After we got married, I thought we were a perfect match made in heaven, but Jenny hated me all her life. In the end, I could only watch her take crazy revenge on me and my family, but I was powerless to do anything. After living a new life, she married her sweetheart as she wished, but she sent me a message late at night. "David, can I see you?" The story is about to begin. If you like it, remember to like and follow. My mother pulled me to look at the photo and said, "Look, son. Isn't this girl pretty? She's the new graduate student in our institute, Jenny, whom I told you about. This girl comes from a poor family, and has come to where she is today through her own hard work. Isn't she outstanding?" She talked incessantly, like a salesperson in a live broadcast room, her eyes full of love and appreciation as she looked at the photo. "Not pretty at all." I curled my lips. "You look sarcastic and mean." "What?" My mother's smile froze on her face. "How do you know that you are sarcastic?" My mother grabbed my father, who was about to join in the fun, and said, "Dad, David, please tell me, is this girl pretty?" My dad put on his reading glasses, took the phone and looked at it again and again. "Isn't it beautiful? Like a movie star." Unfortunately, beneath that beautiful appearance lies a heart as cold and vicious as a snake or scorpion. Looking at it for any longer makes me feel sick. I said, "TSK. That's because you've never seen a truly beautiful girl. You old people's aesthetic standards are really..." My parents looked at each other, began to doubt themselves, and didn't dare to sell any more, holding their phones. Jenny is a typical beautiful and smart student. With her excellent graduation grades and internship performance, she was hired by the Biological Research Institute where my mother works. She comes from a poor family, but has relied on excellent grades and scholarships to overcome all difficulties and get to where she is today. Her excellence and self-discipline have been praised by many people, which often reminds my mother of her younger self. Therefore, she admires her very much and wants to match her with her only son. So, my mother began to ask Jenny's specific situation in various ways, and somehow the news reached her parents' ears. When they learned that my father was the president of a biotechnology company and my mother was a professor and deputy director of a research institute and Jenny's immediate superior, they became interested. Because Jenny already had a boyfriend at that time. Jenny's boyfriend is her senior in high school and comes from an average family. In order to completely stop Jenny from having any thoughts, Jenny's family actually paid a prostitute to entangle her boyfriend, and then took photos to slander him for cheating. Jenny was completely desperate, and since her parents had long been against it, she accepted my pursuit of her. When she heard that we were getting married, her ex-boyfriend rushed over to win her back, but he was killed in a car accident on the way. Jenny learned the truth when she was packing up her belongings and went to question her family. However, they said that it was my parents who forced them to do so, otherwise Jenny would lose her job. Jenny believed it and hated me and my family ever since. She continued to act like a loving couple with me without any change in her expression, but when everything was ready, she ruthlessly pushed our family into the abyss. I closed my eyes in pain, unable to bear the memories any longer. Fortunately, I came back to life and returned to the time when it was still possible to change everything. After a moment of silence, my mother suddenly said in a serious tone, "David, you can't judge a person by appearance alone. It's rare to find a girl as independent, strong, and smart as Jenny. She is indeed smart, terrifyingly smart, otherwise she wouldn't be able to harm us and yet make our whole family grateful to her at the same time. You really can't judge a person by their appearance alone." If I hadn't been deceived by her beautiful and harmless appearance, I would never have discovered her true face until everything was irreversible. "Mom, I'm looking for a girlfriend, not a boss," I said half-jokingly. "Having a strong woman like you at home is enough. I just want to find someone who is similar to me and can live a good life with me." "You little bastard, you dare to make up stories about your own mother?" My mother scolded with a smile. "Forget it, whatever you want." I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. As long as I could get my mother to stop worrying about this, everything else would be easy. Jenny is like a deadly poison. Anyone who comes into contact with her will either die or be seriously injured. In my previous life, not long after we got married, I was suddenly kidnapped. After my parents paid the ransom as agreed, the kidnappers broke their promise and pushed me off an abandoned building. I didn't die, but I broke both my legs and had to spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair. From then on, our whole family treated Jenny with great care. I asked her to leave and find new happiness, but Jenny said she would take care of me for the rest of her life. While we were touched, our whole family felt that we owed her something. Jenny frantically used my family's connections and resources to expand herself, sometimes even at the expense of my parents' reputation, and spent my family's money lavishly. On the other hand, our whole family is grateful to Jenny for not just walking away after I became disabled. Later, Jenny used the reputation and qualifications that she had gradually accumulated in the graduate school to frame and exclude my mother, causing her to fall from grace. She also sent the stolen business secrets to my father's competitors, destroying my father's company. My father died of a sudden heart attack, and my mother couldn't bear the successive blows and passed away soon after. She came to me frantically, wanting to give me the final fatal blow, but she didn't expect that I had already discovered clues and was investigating her. She pushed me to the top floor and tried to provoke me to commit suicide after telling me the whole truth. But I had already made up my mind. I used up my last bit of strength to jump out of the wheelchair, hugged her tightly, and jumped down from the top floor. As I fell rapidly, I did not feel a trace of fear. The betrayal and despair she brought me were 10,000 times more painful than death. I lost consciousness, and when I woke up I found myself reborn, on the day my mother first introduced her to me. The next day, my mother came back unhappy. The third day, son, fortunately you didn't take this seriously. Jenny has a boyfriend and she even brought him to the institute today. It would be so embarrassing if I introduced you to her so ruthlessly. Oh? I thought. In this life, Jenny was quite quick and pushed her boyfriend in front of people so early. Could it be? Here, he sent us an invitation, saying that he's getting married next month and wants to invite all of us in the institute to attend the wedding. As she spoke, she took out 2 red, gold-embossed invitations. No one interfered in this life, and she finally got married to the person she loved, but what about me and my family? I touched my legs and felt a warm touch. In my previous life, I had no feeling in my legs for 3 whole years. No matter how I pinched, hit, or pricked it with needles, even though it was covered with wounds, it was like a piece of dead meat and had no feeling at all. My parents hugged me and cried, stopping me from hurting myself again. But later, I lost the only person who cared about me. Before my mother passed away, she was emaciated by a series of misfortunes and illnesses. She stretched out a withered arm to me weakly and said with difficulty, "Son, what will you do when I leave? I really can't bear the thought of you." Even today, when I think about it, my heart still hurts as if it were being tortured to death. Jenny, in your previous life, you felt that you were unfortunate, so you inflicted the pain 1,000 times on others. You were vicious and unscrupulous. I want to see what the happiness you have worked so hard to obtain looks like. I glanced at the invitation calmly. This is a happy event, Mom, I'll go with you. Jenny and Robert's wedding was held in a 3-star hotel banquet hall. Before the groom was even seen, the news that Jenny and Robert were childhood sweethearts, from school uniforms to wedding dresses, had spread throughout the institute. Robert graduated from a 3rd-rate undergraduate college, had a mediocre career, and came from a poor family like Jenny. But even so, Jenny never disliked him. After graduating with a master's degree and entering graduate school, she insisted on marrying Robert despite opposition from his family, and became a popular topic among her colleagues. It is really admirable that he has achieved success in his career but still keeps his original aspiration in mind. The wedding banquet began, the groom stood on the stage waiting for the bride to appear, and I carefully looked at this rival in love whom I had never met. His height and appearance are really not bad, but maybe because his family and career have not been smooth, he seems a little timid. The music started, the door opened, and Jenny walked out in a white wedding dress. The first time I saw Jenny after her rebirth, she was still slim and beautiful, but the wedding dress she was wearing was ordinary. It was obviously rented from a photo studio, which reduced her beauty. The bouquet in her hand was made of silk. Although the color was bright, it looked tacky. A sneer appeared on my lips. I remember when we got married, Jenny's wedding dress was specially tailored for her by a famous designer. There were 100 diamonds hanging on the chest of the wedding dress alone, which made her look as bright as a star. In addition to the bouquets and boutonnieres made of fresh and plump roses and lilies, the entire wedding banquet used thousands of white and pink roses, tulips, peonies, and hydrangeas, decorating the banquet hall with sacred elegance and luxury. The president of David family group is marrying his daughter-in-law, so of course the ceremony is grand. All the most upscale 5-star hotels in the city are booked, and all guests coming from afar can stay for free. The hotel's restaurant, bar, garden pool, and gym are open free of charge to all guests. My mother is an intellectual and has been used to being frugal all her life, but for this once-in-a-lifetime wedding, she said nothing for the first time and let us prepare it. She said, "This is the most important moment in a girl's life, so you should make good use of it, even if it costs a little." The guests at my house were either rich or noble. Except for a few of my childhood friends who made a fuss all night, most of the others left after the wedding. A 5-star hotel may not be as comfortable as your own home. But several relatives from Jenny's hometown stayed for a week and refused to check out. Jenny felt embarrassed and wanted to go and tell them about it, but my dad stopped her and told her that it was not easy for the relatives to come from far away and she should not care too much about it. Without saying a word, my dad paid all their hotel expenses. But today, I looked around the wedding environment. It was just an ordinary decoration. Apart from a few pots of flowers on the stage and the balloon door at the door that was given as a gift with the hotel's wedding package, there was no other decoration in the hall. The carpet in the hall was probably too old and it gave off a faint damp and musty smell, with light stains on it. There were more than a dozen tables at the wedding banquet. Except for 2 tables each for the bride and groom's classmates and colleagues, the rest were for the families of both parties. Colleagues from the research institute sat at the same table. Although they all had good family backgrounds and incomes, they were all intellectuals engaged in research. They did not have any opinion on this shabby wedding and came sincerely to wish Jenny happiness. But the noise and bustle from those tables of relatives made everyone frown. The bride and groom started toasting from the table of their closest relatives. An elder-looking person at the table of the groom's relatives held up a glass and gave a speech. "Jenny, I'm not saying anything bad about you, but how many years has our Robert been waiting for you? He is already 30 years old and is getting married, while other families have kids running around everywhere. Girl, why do you read so many books? In the end, don't you still have to get married and have children? Now that you are married, you should concentrate on your studies and give birth to a grandson for your in-laws as soon as possible." Jenny held the wine glass with an unpleasant look on her face. If Robert hadn't held her hand tightly below, the glass of wine would have almost been spilled. The relatives around him all nodded in agreement. Robert's mother stood behind him and did not dissuade him. Instead, her eyes turned red. "His uncle is right. I have been worried these years. Forget it, stop talking about it. Jenny is a graduate student. Robert protects her very closely and won't let me talk about it. It's a happy day. Don't make her unhappy. What's wrong with being a graduate student? She's still the daughter-in-law of my Robert family." The relative was still confident despite being drunk. Jenny's face turned from blue to white, and she couldn't help but speak. Robert next to her winked at her and tried to pull his mother to ask her to say less. He wanted to keep things quiet, but Jenny's family was not so easy to talk to. Jenny's mother stepped forward. "I was wondering who was being so sarcastic, but it turns out you're some distant relative of mine. How dare you give orders to my daughter? Our Jenny is a graduate student. She now works in a research institute and earns tens of thousands of yuan a month. Why don't you look in the mirror and see if you are worthy enough to teach my daughter a lesson? If our Jenny wasn't so sentimental, how could your Robert family have gotten the chance to take part in this marriage? You are really taking advantage of others and you don't know your own worth." It seemed that these words were directed at that talkative relative, but in fact, every word was a satire on Robert's mother. Robert's mother's face immediately turned red. The two families refused to give in to each other and started arguing with Jenny and Robert, regardless of the fact that Jenny's family members at the next table also came over to join in the quarrel, and the wedding banquet was turned upside down. The restaurant's waiters, supervisors, and managers all ran over and hid aside to watch the fun. They were truly shocked by the scene. Colleagues at the research institute were dumbfounded and could not bear to watch it any longer. In order to avoid embarrassment, they had to leave the table one by one in silence. My mother pulled me aside and hurried away. She heaved a sigh of relief when we got outside. "It's a good thing I didn't bring you two together," We really can't handle such in-laws. I smiled and said nothing. I have seen such in-laws before. As soon as I married Jenny, Jenny's family members came to me like sticky candy, asking me to borrow money, go to school, or ask for jobs. Although it was very troublesome, I tried my best to help them arrange it. At that time, almost one of the secretaries around me was responsible for handling the household affairs of Jenny's family. At first, Jenny's father and Jenny's mother did not dare to act rashly due to my father's authority as the president. But after I became paralyzed, they changed their attitude. They often came uninvited, sat in my house openly, and asked for money and houses. As soon as my parents showed the slightest impatience on their faces, they would start crying about their daughter's sacrifices and misfortunes. My parents were helpless. Although they were angry, they didn't want Jenny to be caught in the middle, so they could only let them have whatever they wanted. Now that Jenny's family and Robert's family have become relatives, they are truly evenly matched. Back then, my parents were at a loss as to what to do when Jenny's mom threw a tantrum, but Robert's family handled it very well. The two families mocked and cursed each other in all kinds of ways, which amazed me. It really is true that every evildoer must be punished by another evildoer. Thinking back to when I saw Jenny with a livid face and about to cry before leaving, with her wedding dress torn askew while she was trying to stop the fight, I finally let out some of the anger in my heart, and a smile unconsciously appeared on my face. "How can you be so mean?" My mother said angrily. "Are you so happy to see that other girls' weddings were disrupted?" "Mom, what nonsense are you talking about?" I slowly stopped smiling. Why would I laugh at her? What does she have to do with me? You know, Jenny, why is she so pitiful? My mother is not a gossipy person, but Jenny's family is so weird that she has to complain about it almost every day when she comes home. It is said that now, apart from doing experiments and recording data, colleagues in the institute are gathering together to discuss the troubles in Jenny's family. Neither Robert's family nor Jenny's family is wealthy and can only buy houses near the suburbs. Jenny has to take the bus and subway every day, and it takes nearly 2 hours to get to the institute. Although her salary was not bad, most of it had to be used to pay the mortgage, so she had to live frugally. When she came this morning, her face was so pale and her lips had no color. When we asked her, she said she was afraid of being late and didn't even have time to eat breakfast. My mother shook her head and sighed. Because of malnutrition in her early years, Jenny suffered from hypoglycemia and mild anemia. In her previous life, my mother loved her so much that she fed her with donkey hide gelatin, bird's nest, sea cucumber, and fish maw in rotation with every meal. After we got married, we bought a large flat not far from the institute, but I still didn't want her to travel around, so I bought her a Mini to protect her from the wind and sun. Her biggest worry every day is what clothes to wear and what jewelry to match to work. Under the protection of David's family, when has Jenny ever worried about money? She put all her energy into overcoming the difficulties in the experiment. With my mother's guidance and the support of our whole family, she quickly became the backbone of the institute. This turned out to be a disaster for my mother, who then suffered the final fatal blow. Alas, it's a pity that such a promising young person with excellent business ability is busy with housework every day and cannot concentrate on his work. My mother sighed. She is a person who cherishes talent and keeps complaining that it is a waste of talent. It is said that Jenny's mother-in-law was also not quiet. She would come to her house every few days and urge her to have a baby, but they always ended in a bad mood. At this time, the nanny brought over the freshly cooked bird's nest, and I urged my mother to drink it quickly. Everyone has their own destiny. Mom, why do you care so much about other people's business? But the next day, I returned to my office and called my personal secretary in. Find me a reliable person to keep an eye on these two people. Secretary Andy was quiet but very capable. He took the photo I threw on the table and looked at it. He didn't ask anything, but just said, "Okay, Boss David, I will report to you as soon as there is any situation." But enemies often meet on a narrow road. Before Andy could report, I ran into Jenny and Robert in the shopping mall below my office building. My custom-made suit arrived and I had some time between meetings to try it on. I changed into my suit and walked out of the fitting room. The salesperson was there to help me smooth out my wrinkles and bend over to straighten my trouser legs. The manager was standing by, waiting for my opinion with a smile on his face. At this time, I heard the guide at the door greet me, "Welcome, sir and madam." A female voice said, Robert, there will be a joint annual meeting of the company and the institute next month. You can bring your family members. This suit is nice. Let's take a look? I froze for a moment, the voice was so familiar, it was Jenny. How did she get here? I like this brand of suits and I visit here often. In my previous life, she often accompanied me here. In this life, she actually brought Robert here to buy a suit. But the clothes in this store cost tens of thousands of dollars. Maybe she was used to it in her previous life, but in this life. I sneered. Does Jenny still think that she is the daughter-in-law of a wealthy family who is spoiled by the whole family? Sure enough, after a while, Robert gasped, What? 20,000 for a piece of clothing? Why don't you just go and rob it? Jenny, let's go, this is not the place for us. It's a bit expensive, but look at the texture of the fabric, how can other brands compare to it? Jenny said in a restrained voice. No matter how good the quality is, can it be eaten? After buying clothes, we're going to starve? I know you're doing this for my own good, okay? Be good, let's take a look and go. I earn more than 10,000 yuan a month, and I can buy a house after saving for 2 months. Are you serious? Then you don't have to pay the mortgage? You don't have to pay the car loan? We don't have to eat together? Just to buy a suit? Jenny, are you okay today? Do you have a fever? The two were still arguing outside, and I couldn't help but frown. I had to rush back soon for a meeting, and they were still arguing outside, so how could I get out? I really don't want to see Jenny again. The manager thought I was upset about being disturbed, so he hurriedly said carefully, Are you satisfied, Boss David? If you are in a hurry, I will have someone pack the clothes and send them to your company, and you can pay the bill later. I hesitated for a moment and said, It's okay. I'll take the clothes with me and pay the bill when I get out. I am an upright person, why should I hide from her? I walked out of the fitting room. Jenny and Robert were still arguing. She looked up and saw me. Her face turned pale for a moment and there was undisguised panic in her eyes. I just glanced at her and walked straight past them. Robert noticed that Jenny looked unhappy. He turned his head to look at me and then at her. Know her? Do I know him? She denied hastily. The manager whispered behind me, Boss David, please sit down for a while. I'll have them wrap it up for you. I sat on the sofa in the VIP room without saying a word, and another shopping guide immediately and attentively brought me a cup of coffee. The VIP room was semi-open. They couldn't see me, but they knew what I was doing. This probably reminded Jenny of the treatment she received when she came here in her previous life. She turned her head to look at the salesperson with an indifferent expression behind her and bit her lip. Robert, let's go. Robert was a little confused when he saw her attitude change so quickly. He glanced at me and suddenly changed his mind. He turned to the salesperson behind him and said, Why does he have coffee but we don't? The salesperson was polite but looked contemptuous. Sir, only our VIP customers can get coffee. Robert had an unhappy expression on his face. Who are you trying to fool? Isn't it just who buys clothes gets coffee? How do you know we don't buy any? The salesperson was so angry that her face turned red. Sir, I'm so sorry. Jenny pulled Robert aside and said, Robert, what are you doing? Stop it. Robert yelled, Jenny, you don't know, these people are just looking down on others. You. The shopping guide's face turned red with anger. The noise was so loud that all the sales assistants in the store came over to watch the fun. Jenny's face turned redder than the sales assistants and she dragged Robert out with all her strength. Robert simply started to act like a spoiled child, holding Jenny and not letting her leave, while shouting, Come and take a look, this store is just bullying its customers, what's so great about a salesman? And he's also learning to judge people by their appearance. I'm not leaving today, what do you think? The manager walked over with a frown on his face. What's going on? The salesperson said aggrievedly, This gentleman insisted on drinking coffee, but that is prepared for VIP customers. The manager glared at the employees around him, and everyone quickly went back to work. He nodded slightly to Robert and said, It's just a cup of coffee. Make 1 cup each for this gentleman and lady. As expected of him being well-trained, this guy today is obviously here to cause trouble, so we should get rid of this plague god as soon as possible. The shopping guide went to make coffee indignantly. The manager turned around and said, Sirs and ladies, please feel free to look at any clothes you want. If you find something suitable, you can try it on. Our shopping guides are always available to serve you. Robert smugly glanced at Jenny, who was looking livid, and said, "The quality of your shopping guides is too poor. I think you are good, so you can serve me." As soon as these words were spoken, all the shopping guides in the store who were pretending to be busy but were actually eavesdropping laughed out of anger. If I hadn't come here to try on clothes today, the manager wouldn't have shown up. This is originally a luxury brand store, and every regular customer has a fixed shopping guide service. In addition to managing the store and the shopping guides, the manager only serves customers who spend more than 1 million. This Robert is really asking for too much. He can't even afford a piece of ready-made clothing, but he just asks the manager to serve him. The manager showed a puzzled look on his face, but he was much more experienced after all, so he didn't get angry. He smiled slightly and made a pleased gesture. "Okay, then I will match it for you today, sir." Then he led them directly into the showroom. Robert may not know, but Jenny, who had been here many times in her previous life, knew it very well. The outer room displayed ready-made clothes worth around 10,000 yuan for the public, while the inner room served custom-made clothes for VIP customers, and the prices were incomparable. She grabbed Robert again and shook her head vigorously at him, but Robert didn't care. He held her hand and walked inside. "Looking at your figure and temperament, I think these sets are more suitable. You can try them." Robert just picked up a piece and gestured. The manager's next words made his hands tremble and he almost dropped the clothes on the ground. "Sir, you have a good eye. This set is a more mature style in our store. The custom price starts at 80,000. We can measure the size first." Robert opened his mouth wide. 80,000 for a piece of clothing? You are a shady shop? The manager frowned and said, "We are a reputable and quality-assured old store. Please don't tarnish the reputation of our store, sir." Jenny on the side looked extremely unhappy. She just watched Robert jumping up and down without saying a word. At this time, a shopping guide came towards me with a card machine. She said loudly as if on purpose, "Boss David, your clothes are packed. The total is 188,000 yuan. I took out my gold card and swiped it quickly, then took the pen handed to me by the shopping guide, signed with a few swish strokes, and stood up to leave. Robert looked over with a shocked expression. There really are idiots who spend hundreds of thousands on a suit. Jenny's face turned dark instantly. She looked at me suddenly and clearly saw the mockery in my eyes. "Enough!" she suddenly yelled, startling everyone around her. "Robert, are you done yet? If you don't leave, I will." With tears in her eyes, she rushed out without looking back. Robert was still holding the clothes, not knowing whether to chase or not. He was stunned for a moment, then stomped his feet, stuffed the clothes into the manager's hands and chased after him. "Idiot." The manager looked at his back and uttered 2 words. Although he didn't say anything out loud, I could understand his lip movements. The suit cannot be folded, so the manager sent a handsome guy to help me carry the suit bag to the company upstairs. I walked steadily in front, followed by a handsome guy in a black uniform and white gloves, who was holding his clothes carefully, attracting envious glances from all around. From the corner of his eye, he saw Jenny and Robert arguing fiercely at the elevator not far away. The shopping mall was hotter than the store, so I loosened my tie and heard a few girls exclaiming behind me, "Wow, he's so handsome. He must be the legendary boss." Jenny heard the noise and looked over. She stared at me blankly for more than 10 seconds, then suddenly covered her face and started crying. Robert, who was sitting opposite her, was totally oblivious to what was happening behind her and was still talking non-stop. When he saw her suddenly start crying, he hurriedly tried to comfort her. I walked into the elevator quickly, not wanting to look at her for even one more second, and the guy behind me hurriedly followed me in. Isn't this the life she has been seeking for in 2 lives at the cost of killing everyone? Why is she still enduring humiliation? It's disgusting. The annual meeting of David Family Company, the Institute, as a subsidiary of David Family, was also invited to participate. Most of this is because of my mother. Back then, the young master of the David family fell in love with a beautiful, independent and extremely talented female doctor of biology. In order to please the girl, he spent a large sum of money to fund her research project. The girl lived up to everyone's expectations and her research results were of great commercial value. The money that was originally invested to please her girlfriend actually helped her father gain a firm foothold in the David family and consolidate his position as successor. After marriage, the two are still very much in love. Dad is not at all chauvinistic and continues to support Mom's independent career. He even transformed the group into the field of biotechnology and took over the research institute. Therefore, when my mother saw Jenny for the first time, she always felt that she looked like herself back then. That's why she insisted on introducing her to me so that we could continue the same love relationship she had with her father. It's a pity that my mother is first-rate in her professional field, but her judgment of people is really not that good. Jenny is completely different from her. Her mother's dedication and enthusiasm for her profession, as well as her simplicity and straightforwardness towards people and things, are not seen in her at all. Her eyes were full of ambition, the ambition to not be inferior to others and the ruthlessness to achieve it by any means necessary. The image of an academic talent was just her disguise, and her revenge on my family in her previous life was just a cover. I don't believe that such a person would be content to live an ordinary life in this life. Without her mother's unconditional and careful guidance, without her family's full support, and without the financial pillar to ensure that she has no worries, her shining star has become much dimmer. Jenny works hard every day to save money, but her in-laws don't understand and keep her from doing anything. The trivial household chores often make her exhausted. My mother said that the director had complained to her several times in private, saying that Jenny's condition was far worse than when she was an intern, and that he wanted to talk to her and told her not to let trivial matters in life affect her work. From what I know about her, Jenny will not just sit there and wait for death, but will definitely find a way to turn the situation around. She came alone to the annual dinner. It was customary to allow family members to attend the annual meeting, and almost everyone brought their partner or family, but she did not bring her newlywed Robert. Everyone asked her in surprise, but she just smiled and said that he had something to do at the company. Jenny was absent-minded throughout the dinner. Her eyes kept lingering on me and my mother, but she didn't dare to move forward. I sneered in my heart, so anxious? Then I will give you a chance. As I stood alone on the terrace outside the banquet hall with my glass of wine, she arrived. David? She called my name tentatively. I turned my head to look at her, silent. I know it's you. You were also reborn, right? She suddenly began to sob. I know you must hate me very much. I treated you like that in my last life. But that was because I was blinded by hatred. I thought my true love was Robert. But after I was really with him in this life, I realized that the person I had always loved was you. Even though I was prepared, I almost vomited because of the disgust. I am really curious about what kind of thought process could make her think that I could forgive her after she did so many unforgivable things. Seeing that I was still silent, she thought I was moved and even wanted to come over and grab my hand. Let me make up for what I owed you in my last life. Can we start over? I heard a loud bang and the sound of metal falling to the ground. Jenny was startled. It was late at night, and the dim and ambiguous light on the terrace made her not notice that there was someone sitting on the sofa in the corner. When she saw the figure slowly standing up in the darkness, her whole body began to tremble. Robert had been wandering outside the banquet hall early in the morning, saying he was there to pick up his wife. He was warmly welcomed in by the person I arranged. Colleagues in the institute all knew him. They greeted him and asked him what important things happened in the company that made him miss our annual dinner. Robert stammered that they had had an argument, and everyone immediately understood and pulled him to sit on the sofa on the terrace to give him advice. But I didn't expect to witness Jenny's affectionate confession to me. Robert walked towards Jenny with a pale face, followed by his incredulous colleagues from the institute and my mother. Looking at the crowd that gathered around me, I said in surprise, Ms. Jenny, what are you talking about? This is the first time we meet. Did you recognize the wrong person? She looked at me fiercely and shouted, David, stop pretending. You came to my wedding banquet and we met by chance in the mall. Don't tell me you don't have any feelings for me. There was an uproar all around and I looked at her like she was a fool. Enough. Aren't you ashamed? Robert yelled, interrupting Jenny. He turned his head and looked at me with red eyes. I said that she looked at you in a strange way last time in the suit shop, and she was upset with me for a few days because of this. It turns out that you guys were behind my back. I quickly waved my hands and stepped back, saying innocently, don't talk nonsense. Although I have seen Miss Jenny, I don't know her at all. Is there any misunderstanding? My mother came over with a frown on her face. David, what's going on? Did you and Jenny know each other before? I held my forehead with my head in my hands. Mom, don't you know whether I know Miss Jenny or not? I was just enjoying the cool air here. I don't know why she suddenly came to me and said these nonsense. This is the first time I've met her, except for the time I accompanied you to your wedding banquet. Miss Jenny is already married, why should I mess with her? I'm not such a jerk. I don't know Jenny, but Jenny knows me. In other words, who in the institute doesn't know me? I am not only my mother's son, but also the son of the David family and the only heir to the David family group. Young, handsome and rich, the girls pursuing me can line up from here all the way to the gate. How could such a person fall in love with a married woman with an ordinary family background? After sorting out these facts, the expressions of my colleagues behind me gradually changed from shock at the beginning to contempt. It turns out that the self-proclaimed academic master is actually a vain and vulgar woman who dreams of marrying into a wealthy family. I shook my head. I accompanied my mother to Miss Jenny's wedding banquet out of courtesy, but she misunderstood that I was interested in her. This is unbelievable. Now, in everyone's impression, Jenny has changed from a vain and materialistic woman to a self-indulgent and delusional person. The image of her that she had built up in everyone's mind as a person of self-reliance, deep affection, and loyalty completely collapsed. My mother was so angry that she couldn't speak and turned away. Jenny rushed to stop him, but Robert couldn't stand it anymore and slapped her hard. She first covered her face in disbelief, then rushed over like crazy and started fighting. Robert, you dare to hit me. I gave up David for you, and you hit me. If it weren't for you, I would have been the young lady of the David family. Listen, these words are simply unbearable to hear. Even the colleagues who stepped forward to mediate the fight couldn't stand it. What's more, Robert, his wife was always thinking about someone else, so he rushed forward and grabbed her hair hard. I silently retreated to a safe place, watching the chaotic farce in front of me with a barely perceptible smile. In her previous life, Jenny was unconditionally accepted and trusted by me and my family, all because of my mother. Although she failed to marry me in this life, my mother still admired and sympathized with her, and had already hinted at the intention of passing on her legacy to her. I can't risk her taking advantage of my mom again. I have to put an end to this problem once and for all. This time, she revealed her true colors in front of everyone. I want to see if she still has the nerve to stay in the research institute. Only by staying away from Jenny can I truly ensure my mother's safety. The person whom I had high hopes for actually set his sights on his own son for wealth and fame. My mother was so angry that she couldn't eat or sleep, and she took sick leave and didn't go to work for several days. Therefore, she had no idea about the excitement happening in the unit. My informant brought me the news that the next day, Jenny went to work looking haggard, but was brought to the institute by her in-laws and a group of relatives. He scolded her for being shameless, for seducing others after getting married, and for letting her son down after so many years of waiting. He demanded an explanation from the institute's leaders. Jenny was so ashamed and angry that she wanted to die, but her colleagues just laughed at her and no one helped her. After all, everyone present that day heard clearly what she said. Unable to bear the disturbance anymore, the director personally stepped in and warned Robert's family not to cause trouble, otherwise he would call the police. The family then left cursing. Then he advised Jenny to take a vacation for a while, claiming that it was to relax, but in fact it was to persuade her to quit. The moment I received the message, I knew Jenny was going to take action. In the evening, I received text messages from Jenny. David, I know you still hate me, so I said that on purpose last time. I don't blame you, that's what I deserve. If I can make you calm down, I'll be happy to do it. I dare not ask for your forgiveness, but I can't control my heart. I miss you so much every day. Thinking of how good you were to me in my last life, I must have been crazy to treat you like that. I later found out that it was my parents who slandered Robert. I was so blind at the time. I have cut off all ties with them. I also divorced Robert and am now homeless. I don't know where to go. David, can you see me? I put my phone aside, and half an hour later, I replied. Good dot. A few burly men jumped out of the dim alley, put a cloth bag over my head without saying a word, and stuffed me into a van that had been parked on the side. This fucking idiot actually came. The kidnappers' contemptuous laughter came from the car. Not long after, my parents received a call, your son is in our hands. If you want him to live, bring 20 million yuan. I warn you, don't call the police, otherwise we will collect his body. After a panic, my parents still chose to call the police, just like in their previous life. But this time no one tipped off the police, and with their efficiency and speed in handling the case, they quickly located the kidnapper. While these desperados were still drinking and fantasizing about how to spend the money after getting it, the police had already broken into the house and pinned them all to the ground. After making sure that I was truly safe, the people who had been protecting me secretly retreated quietly. This kidnapping case that was a success was not possible without my help. A few days ago, Secretary Andy came to see me with a serious look on his face. He had been sending private detectives to keep an eye on Jenny these days, and suddenly he intercepted an extraordinary phone call. Jenny actually hired someone to kidnap me. Although I had no chance to see the kidnappers' faces in my previous life, when I played back the surveillance recordings, I immediately recognized that they were the people who had kidnapped me and left me disabled for life. Even though I had suspected it a long time ago, the moment I confirmed it, I still felt like my whole body was burning with hatred for this vicious woman. The kidnapper turned out to be the gangster who had pursued Jenny in junior high school. For a word from the goddess in his mind and for huge wealth, he would take risks. In my previous life, I was extremely dependent on Jenny because I broke my legs and became disabled for life. So in this life, when she couldn't get close to me at all, she used the same trick again, trying to make me disabled before getting close to me. The high and mighty eldest son of the David family has fallen from grace and will no longer look down on her as she has been married. Our whole family will be as grateful for her deep affection as we did in the previous life and will offer her everything from the David family with both hands. After the anger, I calmed down. In fact, I could have prevented the kidnapping and made her pay with the evidence in my hands. But how can the consequences of an attempted kidnapping and an actual kidnapping be the same? This time I will make sure she never gets a chance to turn things around. So I decided to use myself as bait to hook out the greedy big fish behind me. Andy initially said he would do nothing, as he couldn't risk the life of the president's son. But I insisted on my opinion and took him to meet several retired Special Forces soldiers I hired, and he reluctantly agreed. When I was kidnapped, I was wearing an extremely concealed locator to ensure that the police could find me as soon as possible. The kidnapper was taken to the police station and confessed the crime after just a few rounds of interrogation. In order to get a lighter sentence, he also gave up Jenny, saying that she had specifically ordered not to kill me but to break my legs. When my parents found out, they wanted to kill her. The facts were clear and the evidence was conclusive. The police quickly arrested Jenny, who was still anxiously waiting for good news. A married female master's degree holder had evil intentions in order to marry into a wealthy family, and even planned to kidnap the heir of the David family group. The next day, this explosive news jumped to the top of the hot searches, ranking first, and its popularity remained unabated for more than half a month. This case caused a great sensation in the local area, and everyone who knew Jenny or didn't know her cursed her. Her alma mater, which was once proud of her, from elementary school to university, quickly removed her information and photos from the alumni directories and celebrity lists. Those who once envied or jealous of her were now gloating over her misfortune, leaving comments under various media news and exposing the clues she had once revealed, even making several private accounts popular. Jenny's family also suffered from cyber violence, but her mother came out to clarify, saying that she had seen through her vicious character and had cut off ties with her. However, this attracted a lot of sympathy from many people, who turned around and scolded Jenny even more harshly. Because of the negative impact of public opinion on society and the determination of David's family, the kidnapping case masterminded by Jenny was classified as particularly serious and she was sentenced to 20 years in prison. My mother still felt unsatisfied and said that she might hurt people again after she got out, but my father gritted his teeth and told her not to worry. Anyone who dared to touch anyone in the David family would never have an easy life. He was really angry this time. Even such a refined and elegant person would say such cruel words. When Jenny was imprisoned, surprisingly, the first person to visit her was Robert. According to the prison guards inside, Robert is still sincere to Jenny. He painfully asked her why she did that. Jenny, however, was full of contempt. I originally thought that the person I loved was you, but it turned out that it was all my fantasy love. After being with you, I found that you and your family are so vulgar. All you talk about is money. You and I have nothing in common. You have no idea what I gave up for you. That's it. You, the Robert family, are ungrateful and are actually dissatisfied with me. You don't even ask yourself whether you deserve it. Why get married without money? Why buy a house without money? You want to tie me down in trivial life for the rest of my life. I hate you. Robert was so angry that he clenched his fists. She ignored you, but you still rushed to get close to her, and even betrayed our relationship of so many years and divorced me. In the end, you go crazy and kidnap people? Where on earth are you so noble? You still have the nerve to ask me if I am worthy? First ask yourself if you are cheap or not. In the final analysis, you are nothing but a cheap person who despises the poor and loves the rich, and is greedy and vain. After saying that, he threw the clothes and supplies he had prepared for Jenny into the trash can in front of her and left without looking back. Jenny fell on the table and burst into tears. How could I resist not joining in the fun? The next day, I asked my lawyer to meet her with some photos that were taken when she met the kidnappers. She seemed to understand something in an instant, and screamed like crazy, "He arranged everything, right? He is taking revenge on me. He did this to lure me into this. It's ridiculous, I thought I had everything under control. David, come out and explain everything." The lawyer stood up and moved away in disgust, then continued, "Boss David asked me to tell you something. Last time you asked him if he still cared about you, he said that he not only cared about you, but he was thinking about you day and night. He was thinking about how to send you to hell." Jenny acted like a madman, crying and laughing at times. The lawyer signaled to the prison guards standing in the distance, and they came over, subdued the crazy Jenny, and took her away. Jenny's case caused a huge uproar in society and her name became an object of disgust. And I finally got rid of her shadow and started my life again. My mother gradually recovered from the incident, and she finally understood that not everyone is as pure and kind as she is. After Jenny was imprisoned, Robert completely severed all ties with her. With the support of his friends and family, he restarted his life. Although he experienced pain, he also learned to grow. After experiencing this series of upheavals, I have a deeper understanding of the complexity of human nature. I began to cherish more the people around me who were truly good to me, and I also learned how to better protect myself and my family. As for Jenny, she spent a long and grueling time in prison. She finally understood that greed and vanity would only lead people into deeper darkness, and true happiness was never achieved through calculation and conspiracy. There is no rehearsal in life, every day is live broadcast. We cannot predict the future, but we can choose our own path. I hope everyone can find their own light and happiness on the stage of life.